and welcome to Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. My name is Julie and I'm here to impart some knowledge to you today via a 2-minute art tip. And today's tip, we are going to be talking about Kilimanjaro 300 pound. I absolutely love it. It is our own Cheap Joe's brand. We've had Kilimanjaro for 20 years now. And today I wanted to show you a little bit about how resilient and tough and amazing Kilimanjaro 300 is. Granted, I prefer 300 pound because I don't like stretching paper and stuff, but Kilimanjaro is so like tough and resilient. It is 100% cotton rag. It is internally and externally sized, which for, the beginner, what that basically means is that the sizing that controls the moisture absorbent of this cotton, because otherwise if there's no sizing, it'd be like painting on a t-shirt. So like the sizing controls the moisture absorption into the surface. Some manufacturers, in order to save money, will just basically spray the sizing on the top, which means that with scrubbing or excess sketching or erasure, you can actually scrub right through the sizing, and then it's like painting on a paper towel, and it's really tough. So this makes, this thing impervious. You can do all kinds of stuff with it. Go back and make corrections, be really rough on it, and it's totally fine. It is a professional grade paper, so even though it's less expensive than many of the others out there, you don't have to worry about the quality or the performance of it. It is fantastic. We have it in 2 different colors. We have the original bright white, which is what I'm demoing with here because I just like the white. And the other is like a natural white, which is similar to other natural whites that you've seen. It's kind of like a little bit on the vanilla side, not as crisp bright white. And the difference is what you're used to, I think. I like the bright white because I don't like to have to compete with the warmth of the natural white. But this, whatever floats your boat. We do have it in sheets, which is shown here. The sheets now have 2 decal edges instead of 4. So on the short sides are decal and the long sides are cut. We do have them in blocks. We have them in pads. We have them in sketchbooks. We have them in journals and all kinds of cute little formats. I love them. They're great. But what I wanted to show you today is just a, real life application of things that I would normally do with it, and show you exactly how it functions for me. And so you can get kind of a feel for how this behaves and see if you would be interested. I have here Miller's Pseudo Squirrel bold wash brush. So what I'm doing is basically, I've got a little thin pencil line here that you probably can't see all that well on camera, but I'm not really interested in you seeing it. I'm interested in me seeing it. So I'm laying down some water. And do I care if I stay in the line? Not that much. This is going to be a loose abstract piece. I want to have some kind of border here, but it can be very organic, so I'm not worried about, whether it stays nice and neatly in the cute little line or not, So we're going to lay down some water, and we're going to work wet and wet. So we're going to take wet paint and put it into this wet pool of water that we've laid down. And I'm going to switch to the American Journey Interlocked Nylon. And I'm going to use this Dan Smith Primatech color. Many of them are fashioned from semi-precious stones and minerals and stuff. But this is one of those go-to colors that is always on my palette. I need to get this thing activated. The thing with the Primatech colors is because they are minerals, they take a little teeny extra time to activate. I just like this color as a base. Many of the Primatech colors have this kind of granulation and a little bit of sparkle in them. Not like shiny, not like fine tech, not that kind of shiny. Just a little teeny subtle thing. And I like it as an underlayment. I like it as a garnish. I like it, period. So I'm just laying in color, getting the groundwork done. I already got some of this that's starting to get a little dry, so we're just gonna move it around with some water. And as you can see, I've got all kinds of wet and wet kind of transitions happening here. I'm cool with that. Doesn't matter. Let me show you another thing that I like to do. This one It just makes me happy. I like it a lot. It is Coastal Fog. This is an American Journey color. It looks a little funny. It looks like a milky green, but bear with me here. This it's kind of like this neutral, I think, that colors can just kind of relate to. Kind of like, you know, your favorite pair of jeans. So we got jeans and khakis right here, and then everything else that already matches, you know, so it's good. And you know, you probably, you know, won't see me mixing a whole lot of color on the palette with this. I like to let the colors do what they're going to do on their own. This one activates very quickly. It's a more opaque color. It does have some titanium in it, but I like it because you have the transparent, you have the kind of more milky opaqueness as a contrast, and I've been really digging that here lately. Been playing around a lot with transitions of, you know, transparent and opaque and stuff like that. So I get a little bit more pop here. Okay, so like we said, that one's Coastal Fog. Now you're gonna think I'm completely nuts, but I'm gonna kind of dig in with something that's similar but not quite the same. This is Pat's Coastal Blue, another more opaque, kind of cloudy color. And as you can see, this one's got a more green tint to it, which provides kind of like an interesting transition between these two passages and stuff. It may be that we cover all of this up and we never even see it, and that's fine. You know, it's cool. The build is what I think is interesting. So I'm just kind of letting stuff happen. All right. And as you can see, my palette is a king-size mess right now. I've been painting a lot, and have not been especially kind to my palette. Now I'm going to grab some American Journey Junebug. We're going to put that in there. I like this color. It's like teal, but it's smoky. Hit it really hard with some color and let some stuff happen. All right, now we're going to go to a split complement kind of thing. We're going from teal green with a blue base, and then we're going to go to Shadow, which is another smoky color, but this one is purpley, which provides an interesting little conversation going on between these colors here. And again, doesn't bother me all that much that there's, you know, these mixes happening. There's really interesting passages of stuff where the colors are talking to each other and things. Now we're going to take another divergent tour. We're going to grab some green gold, and you're going to be like, what? Yes. Fear not, travelers. You don't like it, you can cover it up. It's not a big deal. But I like this, that yellow purple conversation happening in there is really fun. And then I'm going to put something next to it that's a little bit more subtle. We're going to grab some Naples because I always like Naples. It's like butter. I love it. And then another flying leap across the color wheel in a completely opposite direction. We're going to grab some American Journey Quin Violet, which is another one of my favorite colors. And we're going to let it reside in there with these other things going on. And you're like, what are you doing? You know, seriously, it's fine. You know, whatever happens, happens, and we'll figure it out. Now, one fun thing that's fun to do is like grab some Quin Violet and then a little Cad Red Light. You ever grab those two together? This is fun. Ooh, it's kind of like this crazy kind of persimmon color. So pretty. Love that. All right, then we're gonna grab some Earthen green because we need to ground it a little bit. It's a little rainbow bright, My Little Pony-esque. We gotta take it down a little bit. Screaming. I'm gonna grab some green, have it wander around in there. All right, letting it mix right over the purple. We're not worried if it grays a little bit because they're doing different things. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's just that, I don't want it to look like, oh, you hit the techno bar. Here I was droning on about calming things down, and we're gonna go in a completely other direction. And you're gonna be like, not following where you're going here, but we're grabbing American Journey Periwinkle. And you know why? Because I like Periwinkle. It's my very favorite color. I love it so much. And we're gonna let it be a connector between these cools and stuff. So it will just offer a little bit of variation, what we're not used to. And yeah, we're letting it hit the green. We don't care. It's fine. And we're gonna move it through all of this. Now, grab Peacock. American Journey Peacock. Woo! This is insane. So, crazy stuff happening. And that's good. You look it that way. And you're like, what in the world are you doing? I know, but don't lose faith, little camper. It's okay. We're gonna actually punch a whole bunch more of this in there and let it do its thing. Now I'm just gonna grab some water because I wanna soften that up, and I don't want the edge to be so predictable, I want it to kind of move and flow around. Now you can see that all this stuff is still moving around. We still got a lot of moisture that is active in this sheet, and we're able to make a lot of changes and do some stuff. Like if we wanted to, we could pick up a passage. Here, I'll show you what I mean. So what I've got right now is this Yellow Save Indigo Dark. It's a new American Journey color that we just added to the line, and can't say how much I love it because it is so great. I'm going to just fling a whole bunch of this in here and let it do its thing. It's kind of like, oh, this crazy stuff's going on, and then we've got this like dark sky that's hanging out above the whole thing. But we're not into rainbow bright techno either, so we're gonna run it down along the edge and have it be this brooding business that happens on top of everything else. And then we'll bring it down here to let it do its thing. Okay, so we have a ton of color going on. We have a ton of different things, and I'm fine with that. One thing I'm not totally in love with is this thing that has kind of become fuchsia. That's a little much for me. There's a Dan Smith color that I love. It granulates a lot. It's this kind of smoky green. I kind of like enjoy how it kind of just blends with stuff and makes it very, very yummy kind of interaction and stuff. So I'm not going to use a ton. I am going to like super load this one section with color because we're going to get crazy with some salt. And I'm going to come back, and we've got these other crazy colors already on the surface. I'm going to grab some other thing. I'm going to hit it with another dose of Periwinkle in here. We'll really let it play around in there, and then go grab teal. Okay, and we know it's nice and wet and all that kind of business. Now, the other thing I'm going to do before we throw some salt on this is I'm going to grab my fine tip colors. And you're like, seriously, Jules? You need more metallics on top of everything else that's happening? Yes, I do. So I've got this really, really bright, crazy gold that really almost functions like a yellow, you know. And we're going to just dab it into these passages and let it mix with everything that's going on here. We're just kind of letting things be nuts, putting some shimmer on top of all this stuff. All right, as you can see, it is wet. It is happening. Things are taking place. You guys have heard me talk about using salt in your watercolor. If you haven't tried it, it's liberating. It's so fun. I love it. The wetter the surface is, the more interaction you're going to be. But then also that you're going to get. The problem is, the wetter it is, the longer you're going to have to wait. So we have a pretty, fluid situation going on here. And I want to show you this. I just got this at Home Goods, in the food section. This is a salt flake. I don't know what you would possibly cook with this. Maybe fish, I guess. But I cook paintings. And as we've talked about before, with salt, like every different kind of salt makes a different shape. And I really like the shapes that this kind of salt makes. It's crazy. You have like whole little salt pyramids in here. Like, that thing's a cone. Like, it's insane. And it draws the moisture in a really unique way, and causes it to pool and stuff like this. And I dig it. So it will take a while for this thing to kind of do what it's going to do. All right, so what we're going to do is, now that I got it in there, I can see that some parts are a little drier than I want. So don't fear. It's like not a big deal. So here, I'm going to show you what we're going to do. We're going to grab some color with our brush. And because I don't want to overwhelm the stuff we got here, I'm going back to that original Daniel Smith hazy blue color that we had in here before. I'm going to activate a bunch of that. It's a Primatech. So we're going to put salt and shiny, some minerals with some minerals, dudes. Some salt and mineral combos. And I'm just going to dab it right in there into the salt pool to kind of force it to activate and go a little crazy. Right? Because I really, really want this salt to play some games, do some fun stuff. So we want it to be active. All right, so now we're going to go to lunch, and then we'll have a very, very pleasant, I predict, surprise on our hands when we get back. Because all of this is just a little too smooth, I'm actually going to force some blooms, and you're going to be like, what? Yeah, because I want the irregularity. I want it to be imperfect. I want it to be doing some stuff. That one looks a little vile, so we'll move that one around. Yeah, but we're gonna force some water, gonna make things happen. I want the fluctuation of the color in there. I want bits of irregularity. I'm not all too bought into that it has to be one way or the other. I want the variation in there. Okay, so we're gonna break and we're gonna let nature take its course and paint this thing for us. So we'll be back and you can see what kind of fun stuff we have a brew. See you in a little bit. Hello, welcome back. We have let our painting dry and our salt take its effect. As you can see, it's pretty dramatic. We do have our water blooms also happening all over the place, which I love. I think is fascinating and stuff. As you can see, I have ditched my palette, my normal palette, and I have a whole run of Finetec metallic watercolor here. That's the next step in what I'm going to do. So there's no need to have like my whole regular palette up here. So next part is that we're going to scratch this salt off of the surface into this bag and try to not make a mess. And as you can see, these pieces are very like, that one's huge. Look at that thing. That's like a whole like little pediment. Look at that thing. So we're going to scrape this salt off into the bag. We got a little bit of damp stuff happening still, but not a lot. Most of this is completely dry. And some of you may be like, oh no, you're wasting all the salt. But it's salt, folks. It's just a couple dollars for a big old bucket of it, so it's good. It's a relatively almost no cost material to kind of incorporate into what you're doing. So yeah, got a couple little teeny places that are still wet, but not many. Now what I'm going to do now is, and normally I would have more time built in to look at it, think about it, and figure out what kind of direction I'm seeing here. But you're here. We don't have that liberty, so we're just gonna make it up as we go along. This is kind of a free-form process, as you can well see already. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is compositionally, a lot of this is going to happen up here on one side. So in order to not let my focus like drift and be all strange, I'm gonna actually work it upside down for a little bit so I can kind of figure out what I'm doing. So one, I'm gonna activate this Finetec with some water, and as you can see, this Finetec set has more than been worth its weight in gold. And part of what this series is kind of like little fractals and stuff that are happening, and so I'm using the metallics to kind of link these organic shapes together, and so the metallics provide a unifying element, so they're just these little teeny things. So this is a Finetec gold. This is one of those really, really rich, warm golds that it really almost functions, like I said, like a yellow. And I'm sure a bunch of you are already like wondering what is up. Yeah, I'm using a travel brush. This is a Cheap Joe's American Journey Interlocking Nylon travel brush. And I don't know why, but like just here lately, I have been using them like all the time. Like I've been doing some smaller scale work, and I don't know if that's necessarily the reason, but they're just really comfortable in my hand, and I like the way that they feel. So I've been doing a good bit with these brushes lately, and they just feels like a happy little fit to me, you know. So I'm just, yeah, I'm kind of like dabbing these into the little spaces and letting whatever happens. And part of this is like what we've talked about in a recent video about edges. hard edges, soft edges, lost edges, you know. Sometimes the shapes I'm creating with the gold are defined by these crystalline shapes that were left by the salt. And then other times they're just not, you know, like they can just be amorphous and, you know, all over the place and stuff like that. So, and then, you know, so that this doesn't get really boring and predictable, I like to change the colors a good bit. Like this color, I like to use, it can be used kind of like a gray, can be used kind of like a blue. So, you know, I've been using it in connection with lots of other stuff, and then I change the color of the fractals, like the way that they move through the composition and stuff like that, and so that they're not all just gold and just look like jewelry and stuff like that, because I don't want it to kind of be like that. I want the fractals to be integrated into the piece, and I want the whole thing to kind of the movement of the piece to talk to itself and do some stuff. So this I don't actually like spend a ton of time on this, and I kind of like to like just let it be what it's going to be, whatever that is. I just kind of build it out as I go. And the fact that you have so many like blotchy, you know, things that other artists would think of as mistakes occurring inside of all of this, it leaves you a heck of a lot of freedom. You can kind of do whatever you want, and it's really pretty liberating. You just kind of make stuff happen, and it is what it is. And like really like this shape right here, so I'm gonna just kind of keep darkening it, so that this contrast is punched up a little bit more. And now we're gonna really start firing these in, get this going, so you can see how this comes together. And if you were hoping for a little bit more representational technique stuff, I'm sorry, that's not really where I'm at with my watercolor right now. The representational stuff tends to dwell within the drawing area and not within the painting area right now. I don't know why that is, but it just kind of is. We're just building those soft edges, the hard edges. We want it to kind of flow into what's already happening on the page and stuff. And we want it to kind of make sense with the stuff that's already going on. And the thing about working abstract is there's not a whole lot of occasions that somebody's going to walk up and tell you you were wrong. This is totally up to you, and I think that the learning curve is just as viable with this kind of, you know, venturing into technique as any. You know, there's a lot to be gained by, you know, letting yourself play and explore and try new stuff and see where it takes you and all that. So you get where we're going. You see exactly what we're up to, and we'll show you right here at the end where we end up. We're just gonna let this dry and do its thing, and we'll show you a final, because you've basically seen all of the kind of like processes and techniques that I'm going to explore. We'll just wrap this up and hope that you learned a little something maybe you hadn't seen before and are encouraged to try something new. And thank you for watching and hope that you enjoy.